Alright, so the first thing we're going to do is create our user repository through our user repository test. Is greater than 0, it means that the entity manager did its job. The test is going to fail because these things don't exist. So let's make them exist. Still fail because the getID method doesn't exist. And also, the entity manager doesn't know what to do with app user. So now we can create and save a user, and because the ID is greater than 0, we know that the entity manager did its job. Alright, so next up we want to see that we can retrieve a user by ID. So let's do a little bit of refactoring here. Okay. So I'm going to move this into a shared method. So So right now my test should still fail because I'm not done creating that query, but yeah. So alright, so now my test passed and I verified that I can get a user. I can get a I can save a user, then I can retrieve a user by ID 1 and verify that my originally saved user's ID is my retrieved user's ID. Alright, next I want to be able to assign a role of driver to a user. So this one's going to be a little bit more involved. So I still want to get a saved user. Then I want to use my user repository to say assign a role to user save user, and then a concept of an app role that I have yet to create. Driver. Then I want to retrieve that user again to make sure that it did save it all the way to the data store. Okay. So then I want to say assert true that user repository user has role. Pass it retrieve user, and I pass it app role driver. Right. So this test will fail because a lot of things don't exist yet. Okay. Okay, so let's make those things exist. So we're going to create a new entity called app role. Okay, so we've created some methods that are needed. My test is still going to blow up because it's not doing what it's supposed to do yet. Okay. So first, Alright, so I'm going to crib this. It's a bit tedious to write, so I'll spare you that. You know what? There you go. Okay, so now I need to make the entity manager aware of my app role entity. So entity, oh, did it again. Back by table of roles. This is going to be an ID. It's not going to be automatically generated because it's a concept of a rule as an editorial concept, and that will add as part of migration. Okay. So now the entity manager should know what a role is as referenced by my app user entity. Okay, so right, I need to initialize the, it's an array collection, but this array collection needs to be assigned to the role. So I'm going to do it in the constructor. Okay. So now add should exist. Okay. All right. So this is expected. Um, Basically, I'm referencing a role that does not exist in the data store yet. So since it's of an editorial nature, I'm going to do it in the setup. So save app role driver. Okay, and then have a few more things to fix. So when I'm doing this, I'm creating an instance of a role that did not come from the database. It did not come from the data store. And what I got to do here is do the role that's being passed here. I just got to get it by reference from the entity manager. So class and then pass it the roles ID, which I'm going to return here. So now when I go add role and I save it, this role is actually going to be coming from the entity manager. All right. Now I should still say false. Yeah, there we go. So now we're going to make user has role pass. So we're going to say, so I'm going to need this again. So I'm going to extract in its own method. So get role reference. There we go. So it's right here. And I'm going to say return user has role of the past role. I'm going to add this method to the entity. Okay. I'll role, and I'm going to do return this roles contains the role. All right. So presumably this might pass. Let's see. Nope. So I assign a role to user here. Right. User has role. Oh, yeah, because I forgot to call my convenience method here. Role equals this, get role reference. Okay. Now I should pass. All right. All right, so now I want to see that I can assign a passenger role. Test, assign passenger role to user. Since I want to reduce copy pasting, I'm going to do some extracting here. So I'm going to put this role in a variable. Okay. And I'm going to move this into a utility method. Assert user has expected role. Okay. And then now I can take that, put it here, and now I'm going to do passenger. So let me just comment this out to make sure that my test still pass. I did some refactoring, so I just want to make sure that the test already exists pass. Okay, we're good. Now I uncomment this and it should fail. Okay, because the passenger method doesn't exist, so I'm going to create it. It's going to be return new self of 2. Oops. Passenger. All right. Now, will it pass? Yeah, there you go. Okay, so now I just want to make sure that a user can have both roles. And in theory, I shouldn't have to write new code for this, but I just want to make sure, basically. So if I say I have a save user, well, actually, I should be able to Let's just do it more manually. Let's say, now I've saved it, I want to retrieve it just to be safe. By the same ID as a save user. I should be able to assert true that the retrieve user is user repository. User has a whole role retrieve user of so in theory this test should pass. Yep, it does. That's good. Okay, so now I want to prevent somebody from trying to assign the same role to a given user twice, right? So if you're a driver and you're trying to assign a role to the driver, well, you'll probably get an error from the ORM in the first place, but I want to have a more graceful way to handle this, and I want to throw a custom exception in that case. So all right, so let's say given a driver, then I should expect an exception of duplicate role assignment. I should expect that exception if I try to do this. So now this test will fail because this exception doesn't even exist yet. So all right, let's do that. Actually, you know what? I'm going to call it exception. Duh. All right. Bundle, new folder, exception. Great. Okay. Yes. Exception. Move it to the right. Okay. Import it. Okay, so now it exists, but the test will fail because the ORM is going to throw an exception, which is not the exception that we expect. Yeah. So this is like a low-level exception, so we want to handle that more gracefully. So it's going to be quite simple. In our assign role to user method, we're just going to go if this user has a role of user role, throw new duplicate role assignment exception. That's it. There you go. Test passes. All right, so now that I've created a repository to do a number of write and read operations. I'm going to create a service that's going to use this repository. So let me do it as part of a test. User service test. And roughly, some of the use cases I want to cover, it's register new user, get user by ID, make user driver, make user passenger. Okay. So test, register, new user. Okay, so I'm going to go this, user service. I'm going to say new user. Let's say that for now the arguments are first name and last name. So this user service is going to be a new user service to which I'm going to inject my repository, to which I'm going to inject the entity manager. Okay. And then I want to say that assert same Chris. Assert same Holland. User get last name. Okay, let's start here. Really? Okay, so let's go back here. Let's import it. Okay. 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 All right. Will this pass? I should pass. All right, we're good. Okay, so next is we're gonna make a user driver. So just to be safe, I wanna. Oh, So this should pass. Okay, so now that we have a way to make user a driver, let's make them a passenger. Right now this test should pass. It should fail. Oh, it should fail. There you go. Okay, so here I'm expecting a passenger back. So obviously if I still say driver instead of passenger, the test should fail. Okay. So now I go passenger. Now it passes. So if I make user a passenger, then I check that they're a passenger. And it works.